Wow.
Greg
This
and I just got
beautiful.
off an amazing conversation. It could have gone on for hours. It's sort of sad that it doesn't get to go further.
Yeah.
But we decided we will definitely have this guest back. Tad Jones is his stage name. Wells Jones, a man whose life reads like an epic novel.
Yeah.
You're
And
in for a treat.
real treat. This is a very soulful, heartfelt ride with this gentleman. And graciousness, I think, is the theme of this hour ride.
Yeah, it starts on a really heartfelt note for sure, and we knew right away where this was going to lead, and a real pleasure, and you will enjoy it too. Please support Blast and the Compton Cowboys and the work that they're doing. It's part of life's adventure. And if you don't know about them, you can find out about more on the website and look into it deeper before you contribute. Subscribe to us, share so that we can continue to grow this podcast and get on a wider ride. And thanks for listening.
Zes en nou?
11.
Bestuur zeker wegen them.
Joje iets niet, joh.
Sitaki ubenza, anikazirikie.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Mark.
Welcome to another episode of the Moped Outlaws. Today's guest is Wells Jones, a man whose life reads like an epic novel. From elite Antarctica pararescue missions and skydiving over the South Pole to acting off Broadway and directing major international events, Wells has pursued adventure, artistry, and meaning at every turn. He co-created Money Hunt on PBS, kayaked for charity across Long Island Sound, trekked through the Middle East on camelback, retracing T.E. Lawrence's path, and most recently ran with the Bulls in Pamplona. Whether scaling icy peaks before dawn or crossing 39 checkpoints through conflict zones, Wells has lived the question, what does it mean to truly engage with the world today? We'll hear stories, insights, and spirit behind a life of purposeful exploration. Welcome, Wells.
Mark, that was a mouthful. That's a life.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's a full breath, but it's not over.
Right? There's still adventures to come.
Absolutely. The best days are ahead. That next tap, and it's actually happened. There's been a tap on the shoulder, and to be and offered an opportunity, and it's fantastic. So it's
Can you
just
share what that tap is?
Well, we're launching a new business at the Las Vegas AI convention, and we're introducing Soul Tech. And in this case, we're using the technology for humanity. It's an opportunity to create an elder that's passed on, or to create their life and engage with them verbally online after it's been created, where they actually respond to your questions because they have been uploaded with all their history by their family. And it's brand new and it's fragile at the moment, but it's called Reflecta, and it's at reflecta.ai.
That's really interesting. Like, one of the things that Kurzweil and these folks in the singularity concept are working on is the full consciousness upload. We're not there yet, clearly. Right. But what you guys are doing, if I understand correctly, the premise I'm hearing is you're going to take as much information as can be aggregated in terms of writing, photographs, memories, and you're going to put those into an LLM and train it to respond as if from the personality and the experience base of the person. Is that correct?
In their voice.
Wow.
So
how do you do that?
You can go on now, reflect
and clone voices.
To do that. You'll see the three that are up right now for public use to engage with. The two, a man and a woman, husband and wife. It's Miles, co-writer of A Line in the Sand, which really originally brought us together here today, which we'll talk about later. His mom and dad, I was very close to. So engaged by saying, Art, it's so great to see you. It's Tad. He called me Tad back then. It's Tad. I said, we just engaged. Said, Tad, wonderful to hear your voice. And it's an avatar that we're talking to. Eventually it'll be a live action, real life
Deep fake.
avatar. Yeah.
Right.
But it is the information that he responds to has been uploaded. When I spoke with another of the founders of Reflecta, a good friend, his dad is Paul. I said, Paul, this is Tad Jones. I said, I've been working with Greg. Sure, I know who you are.
Wow.
He said, how are you, Tad? I said, I'm doing really well. Can you tell me a little bit more about Greg and as a part of your family? Where is he? Is the oldest, the youngest? Oh, Greg is the youngest. He's the first, And I said, excuse me, Paul, I need to sign off. Ciao, I'll be back to you. Hey, that's just fine. Ciao, Tad. I'll see you when you can get back to me.
That's pretty good.
Have you interacted with the father of Miles in a way where it's bringing back experiences from your youth where you're like, yeah, this is really the gentleman?
Say, Art, remember when we had rosemary chicken, just you, me, and Miles, just before we left for the Middle East on our trek? Could you tell me what you remember about that? He laid it out. He said, I was so proud of the two of you. He is talking to me. Here's the thing that happened. So what is happening inside me, it's not a replacement for Arthur, his dad, but it is a reminder of the events. He tells stories. He reads children's books to Miles's grandson, like he used to when Grayson is now 13, but when Grayson was 3 and 4 and 5, he was reading, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, all this kind of stuff to Grayson, and he'll read it. He'll read the book.
So what is happening inside you?
Inside me, it's a warmth. Let me tell you what happened. Nancy is Miles' mother, and she's a mother of 4, and just an incredible, strong was. She passed on 20 years ago, maybe over that. When I heard her voice, I couldn't speak. I hadn't heard her voice in 20 some odd years. I was directing Money Hunt. Miles, the co-host of Money Hunt, the television show. We're filming at the PBS station in Philadelphia. She's running around, just doing so many things to help, and just so many images. She sang in church, her voice, and she sings. You say, Nancy, could you sing that favorite tune of yours? Boom, there it is. It's her voice. And then they rate, the technology can rate the accuracy of the voice and what the quality that they're getting. She's 98%, and it was very clear because the nuance, and it made me just, I was moved.
Yeah, I see.
I was like, I'm thinking of my own mom, and that's what I will do. I'll do an avatar, an elder of my mother. And my role in this is the military, it's the veterans. Yesterday, we were talking with the man that will be the executive director of the Gold Star Foundation. And those are individuals that have been killed in action, as you know. And he was talking about, at any rate, it's a wonderful collaboration that it's brand new. How new? I'm talking 5 months. And it's had a round of funding. And you can look at the website, and we're going to be at they're saying 8,000 people, 85 countries at the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, the 11th through the 13th in a
Of
week.
August.
Right, is in a week.
Got it. And is
So
that at AES? What's the event?
it's called AI4.
AI4. And what's the
Correct.
website again? Will you give that out, please?
Yes, it's Reflecta. Let me spell it because you have to add that K in there whenever there's a K. So it's not a C. Reflekta, reflecta.ai. And to your listeners, you're eavesdropping on something that hasn't been announced. We expect to do national coverage on this, and that's the way it's lining up on the 13th. So you're hearing it first.
All right. I could
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your role in creating this, and how are you collaborating with everyone at Reflecta to get this off the ground?
Well, I'm a part of the Soul team, which has to do with the manner in which we approach people and the very human side of it. And I'm in charge of the Veterans Affairs. So with my background, though it was only 4 years and it was many years ago, it's just something that's stayed with me. And actually, only in the last probably 10 years, I got my veterans license plate, and I actually got my veterans insurance plan that's available because I just never talked about my service, what I did, where I went. And I found that other veterans, 5% have told their story. 95%, there's not a word about what they did, where they went. Even my son, who became an Army airborne medic, right now he's an LA County fireman with 19 years service there, is so closed-mouthed about his time in Bosnia. And for some, that's led to, ending their life because of what they've experienced in Afghanistan. And especially since Afghanistan, when the troops were returned home, there may have been a victory on one side that were done, but there were relationships, like with the Green Berets, that were very deep and took a great deal of time, years, to create families, people, and extended families that were willing to stand up against the Taliban. And the Taliban said, they leave, you're gone. And so anyone that collaborated with the Americans that was known, and it was known, because the Green Berets, they call it rooftop, leadership. It was just you fight at night. You wait till the Taliban tries to sneak in and kill people, and you get them. And so they know who's collaborating. And so there was a book called Operation Pineapple Express, and that was written by Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. And Scott Mann has a play out called Last Out. Here I'm going on about vets, but it's very deeply embedded in me. And it's my next tap. Churchill said to each there comes a time in their life, a special moment when they're figuratively tapped on the shoulder and asked to do something special, but unique to them and fitting for them. And what a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Go ahead.
Is there potential with Reflector where, let's say, a vet who left a family in Afghanistan and can't connect to them, but there's a lot of psychological guilt, etc., they could interact with your elder, that the person's still alive, but it would allow for dialogue and closure to something that wouldn't normally be closed?
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple of elements that you bring up, Greg, and what it's called is moral injury. And that's what the veterans are suffering from. And it has to do with leaving people behind.
Yeah.
And the Operation Pineapple Express, right after the troops pulled out, this is a private core group led by Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. I just got the book, but I'm actually pursuing to be on his podcast as well. The guy he just got through working with Gary Sinise, who you may know from Captain Dan,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and he does such great work for veterans. So it is the moral injury and leaving people behind, and the ramifications of that. The word is, and the word what Scott Mann promotes is storytelling, like you're doing. And you said, we want to be real here.
Yeah.
We want to get deep, and I think we're starting there right now, and because this is a major international issue that and with American vets, men and women, to offer them a way to express, to be able to speak and have place to tell their story. And so that would be a living legacy. And it wouldn't be an elder, it'd be a living legacy. So what I'm doing right now, I started today. This is how fresh this is. I am, because the system is at a certain level, because I've heard this, and this, and I've gone, okay, I'm going to do my mom, and what happens is you become the editor of the story, and you feed it pictures, you feed it voice, you feed it anything, obituaries, biographies, whatever is happening in that individual's life, and you own it. And it's protected, and there you can get it. I don't know technically the security protocols, but it's the highest military grade, highest level of protocols to protect the information.
It's an interesting problem, because one of the things that is true from the veterans' perspective about why they're silent is, one, the impact to them, but two, the impact of their loved ones actually knowing what they went through and the inherent transfer of the trauma in that. And
So true, Mark. So
right.
true.
So
Yeah.
one of the things
It just filters out, Mark. It's not held right within an encapsulated. It's felt in that individual's surrounding, just not being able to deal with it.
So one of the important pieces that I wanted to ask about is, since we aren't really hearing the stories of the men and women on the ground, one, because it's very difficult for them to transmit them, and two, the transmission of them has a deep impact on people, we are losing the awareness of what it costs to engage in battle this way and remove people and break these ties that you're talking about being formed. And we end up with a populace that debates it from the political football game sort of point of view, instead of understanding the real human impact of these policies. So how do you anticipate being able to work through personally the emotional cost of developing all this material, to you? You're going to be in the field of sorrow, in the field of sacrifice. That's requiring courage, but you're going to need to also shift and alchemize the impact on you as you're doing it. How are you planning to mitigate that? And the other side is, how do you get people to trust you with this material?
Well, the security protocols that they're stated, and there are a number of things. You can go deeper with that to get an answer by going to our website. Okay, Mark.
But the editor has a lot of influence over the story too, right?
They control it.
Yeah,
they control it, and the system is also set up that there's no way, if someone is an individual that's included through the editor that's starting this, about creating this digital memory, this person, they control what is accepted within let's just go with the biography or the timeline. Look, in your family, everybody experienced mom and dad and what happened at last Thanksgiving or whatever, and there'd be two stories from two different people. And so the editor controls. Do you see, Greg and Mark, what I mean?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
And so
dominant story might not be the story that everyone remembers.
right, but not any. The only people that will be allowed to view that are the ones that the editor allows to view and to engage. The three individuals that are public are there specifically not because it was set up to be public, but that they can be. I mean, they are the co-founders, the founders of Reflective's parents. You know, Miles's mom and dad, Nancy and Arthur. And when I heard Nancy's voice, I mean, I heard two sentences. I heard a sentence and I choked.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
it was just a reminder. It was a reminder of her purity,
Yeah.
her purity and her beauty. And all of that came with this level of strength. You know, they're from where is he from? It's like somewhere in Pennsylvania, old mining town in Pennsylvania. Miles is in a big family. Yeah, and he got out on a football scholarship. He went to Choate, and whoa, you know, that was great. But they worked. But the guy Miles is a genius.
So I have another question, of course.
Sure. Okay.
Who's going to do and sit down with people like the Dalai Lama and the King of Saudi Arabia and, you know, these really important figures, the philosophers? Like if we'd gotten Noam Chomsky before he left, right? Like,
Mm,
or any other really sage person,
yeah.
who is going to go do those guys?
It's going to be those little golden nuggets that are coming from grandmother and grandfather and mom and dad that have passed on, things that all the people you just mentioned influenced them. It's the stories of how they made it. Yeah, I lost my job, you know, and it was the depression. It was this. It was there was no gas. The lines for gasoline were, and people. It's just it's a connection, and so it's done in units. It's not done for the world. We're not going after getting, you know, doing one on George Washington, you know, or any famous person. This is for you and me to relate. There's such a desperate situation in our society, and the siloing of thought and what social media has done. Scott Mann calls it the churn.
Mm.
What's
The
that?
churn. The churn is the social media. It's all the way we're being manipulated by
Okay.
algorithms and AI.
So it's a reference to noise. The churn is
It's the churn is the noise, right? It's just think of like a great big huge KitchenAid bread
right.
maker that's going
Right.
with the dough, and
Yeah.
we're in the dough. It's
Yeah.
like you got the iceberg, you've got this top portion, and that's the churn. You got to go deep
Yeah.
because it's get down into our soul, our humanity. And so coming back to soul tech, and we are claiming that with a patent as that's what we're calling it. It's humanity and technology working hand in hand, not for entertainment, not an app. It's human to human, voice to voice connection. And we say, you know, you learn from the dead, right? Read a book.
Right.
As a kid, my mom said, why don't you read Call of the Wild? I don't want to read Call of the Wild. I want to go there. Why would I read it?
Right. Well, part
But
of
I'm reading a lot. I mean, we find out as we
right.
mature. And I was a kid when I said that.
Well, and also not everyone can go to the wilderness in Alaska and live
Mm,
out there. So to read someone's experience,
absolutely.
helps learn the lessons. And that's part of what keeps coming up with me, that you guys chose the term elder. And I keep thinking of indigenous cultures where elders have a very deeply rich spiritual place
Mhm.
in the community.
Mm.
And it seems like that's what you're creating, where like I could go, I'm in a place in my life, I'm stuck, and I could go talk with my mom or my father.
That's it. Miles's email says, I talked with my dad for 10 minutes a day. He died 9 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to open up that email.
Right, right. And I'm thinking, are
It's,
you familiar with Napoleon Hill?
yes,
So
yes,
he talks about that meditative state that was so important to him. And for him, it was a circle of um, advisors that he said, were like Abe Lincoln, et cetera. And he says you could really call these spiritual entities
yeah,
in.
yeah. Did you read his book,
I
Napoleon
did.
Hill? What's
Yeah.
the name of that
Well,
book?
I read the one, Think and Grow Rich.
Right. Have you seen the documentary, Think and Grow Rich?
I haven't. I have seen quite a few of his speeches that were recorded.
Yeah. Well, Think and Grow Rich was done by Scott Servine, a director, and he brought in the thought leaders of today. I mean, you can look it up, Think and Grow Rich, and then he would bring in uh, do period pieces of like Henry Ford. I played Henry Ford in a
Oh,
court scene where he's being sued by the Chicago Tribune because he's an idiot. He doesn't, right?
yeah.
Get rid of this guy. He's making these cars. What's he doing? He can't do that. We've got the controls. Uh, but
Well, this
please
is
check out. Yeah.
when you tie this idea that Napoleon Hill and others have brought forth to the churn, what we're seeing is the capturing of people's consciousness and then the sequestering of it into little pockets that fit into boxes according to
Mm,
wannabe leaders.
mm,
And what's really powerful when we start to unleash humanity and you start to actually think for yourself and reason for yourself, you can then bring into the field, the collective field, your gifts.
right.
And one of the things that's on the table here is with Reflecta is that gift can have less impermanence to it. You can increase the
Lives.
bandwidth.
It
Yeah.
lives. It lives, and
Yeah.
you engage with it. You don't read about it. You engage with the individual, and by having Nancy's voice, man,
So,
right there, and you trust it because you know that person,
yeah.
and you recall, but then you didn't know. It's like the timeline. Everything's done with timeline. Okay, this was a letter that was written da 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 in such and such a year. So there's a map of time that's the autobiography, so that it collects it. The AI collects this, and so when you go back and you ask about certain things, it goes specifically to those days. Well, back when in 1972, when the children were like 3 and 4, and I mean, you just listen to this and you just go, I couldn't even believe this.
There's something I want to ask you about though with Napoleon Hill and
Yep.
what the idea of as you think, you create.
Yeah.
And in your life, you would have these thoughts and dreams, and you would then take the step to enter into the relationship with the adventure, taking action to go. And that's one of the primary manifestation techniques, right? We have to take action that
Mhm.
aligns with our thoughts and our beliefs. And what I notice about that when I come up against something new for myself, when the adventure is tapping me,
Mhm.
that I experience some anxiousness around it, and then I step into the excitement of it. Does this make sense to you? And can you tell a little bit about how you got used to taking risks and taking these gigantic leaps with your life?
First, we have to define risk. Risk is not in my mind. It's in you. You you would look and engage it. That's risky to you. It's not something that I see as risk. When I first heard this Churchill tap, I don't know, I was young. I was I first heard of it probably, 17, 18 years old, and then somewhere I picked up again, but it stayed with me. Back in those days, everything was about Boy Scouts or no, 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 no. It was about the Army. Be all you can be.
Right.
There was things like that. Just we were fed. Be all you can be. Nike. Just do it. And all of this has fed me. My high school motto. That sounds weird, but back in my time, I found out that it sounds weird because people say, "What? Everybody had mottos?" I said, "Yeah, we put it in our yearbook." Really? Huh? That's weird. So my I was 5 towns in a rural area. My graduating class was 31. But things like this quote, things I learned from my mom, like stay where you are and don't move until you're basically tapped. Learn to adapt. Don't run away. Stop commenting. Engage. See the good around you, where you are. Don't look over, you don't have to look over there. You're in the now. Deal with now. Look at this land. Look at that river. Look at that barn. Look at, you know. So I'm losing my train of thought, guys.
What was your high school motto?
One man with courage makes a majority.
Oh, wow. All right. Mark was asking how you mitigate risk or how you manage your own personal fears that might come up.
Correct. Yeah. The fears that come up often have been around finances, but not the important things. Like,
I may break 5 bones, but
right.
who cares? I'm more worried about coming home broke.
That has been on my mind a couple of times. It was either going to be, we hit gold or, don't show your face. It is when I got out of the service after being on the Antarctic pararescue team, I thought, well, I learned so much with the rescue team, medical treatments, mountaineering. I made friends with Kiwis. I mean, just absolutely first-rate mountaineers. Did a skydive jump at the South Pole. I'm number 7 in the lineup to have done it. By 1977, there was a plane load of 5 of us. I just was the first one out. And so the 5 of us was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that sort of thing. But still in the world, in all time. It was 20 years later that people jumped again. And when they jumped, there were 6 guys and 3 died 20 years later. And so it's a very unique niche thing to have skydived the South Pole. One, it was minus 59 degrees. I feel that when it came time getting out of high school, and it was my principal, I mean, he just said he graduates because my grades I wasn't even in school. I mean, he just said, this is okay. He's fine. He's covered the basics. Let's let him go. And I went into the service with an idea. I mean, that idea expanded once I realized, whoa, jets, land on an aircraft carrier. I have to do this now. Okay, get out, go to school, come back, fly jets. And that was in my mind. But in the meantime, I was assigned duty, and I ended up with an outfit that flew for the National Science Foundation, Navy outfit. We were out of Point Mugu, California, which coming from Vermont is like, holy cow, sunshine, beaches, Malibu, Pepperdine University is like, it was like seeing Nirvana. It was so incredible. And sitting across from a guy when I first arrived in Point Mugu in the winter, people were just coming back from Antarctica. The season is from October to February. And a guy was sitting across from me. He said, "You're new." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where are you from?" Blah, 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 blah. I said, "What's that on your chest?" He said, "Parachute wings." I said, "What? For what?" "I'm a member of the Antarctic Parachute Rescue Team." I was like, Antarctic Parachute Rescue Team? He said, "You interested?" I mean, I was just in a daze. Yeah. 6 months later, I applied and I made it through and did the training. But going from that Antarctica, many experiences. I could tell you many stories. Beautiful, missing people, seeing things, but for the most part, everything was an adventure. From the whiteouts to the skydiving, landing on target, landing on glaciers, landing on the polar plateau from an airplane. And we all did free fall. We were a precision group. So it wasn't like it was static line of military. We weren't in military outfits. We were in, our own mountaineering gear. So it was very, very unique. And figuring out what to do afterwards. And it was my mother, again, said, you did a little bit of acting. It was a pivotal point when I played Duke Orsino's attendant. And you go, a pivotal point? You played. Well, you didn't play Duke Orsino? I said, no. I played his attendant. Well, did you have any lines? No. But it was a feeling, being on stage, being dressed. My grandmother gave me a ring to put that I had on my hand. And it was just the whole presence of being with the story. And so she said, you really have a natural ability to be on stage. Why don't you pursue it? Got to go to college. I said, so I became theater major, English minor. And it came time after doing shows and getting attention and really nice attention. Bill Ball from ACT came down to see a show because some of his actors, ACT was the premier actors place on the West Coast. Juilliard, Yale had great places, and NYU sort of, but I'm talking about the elite. And this guy was just very, very well known. And so he came in, and after I did a performance of Petruchio that he saw in Taming of the Shrew, he was backstage, and the ACT guys that were in the show and a part of, they weren't in my show, they were in another show, but a part of the repertory, said, "Hey, Mr. Ball wants to see you." Ooh, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying Spielberg's outside the door.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, I better get dressed. He said, no, don't. No, you look just fine.
Just be yourself.
Walk out. I walked out, and he's not a tall man. And he was with his boyfriend, or, that's what they say. Well, he's with so-and-so, and that's fine. And I said, "Mr. Ball, it's such a pleasure to meet you." He said, "I just wanted you to know that I thought your performance was very good." Wow. And I came back with, "Thank you so much. I'm so glad you enjoyed the show." And he said, "I didn't say that." I went, "Whoa, okay." Yeah. He gave me a compliment. I said, "I'm so glad you enjoyed the show." I didn't say that.
Wow.
And so there have been compliments, and I decided to go to New York, act. And my resume, when it came time, when I actually got an audition, was with Lee Strasberg's son, John. They were starting a repertory company. It was just John in the room, and it was just exactly what you think of. It was like there was one stand with a bare light bulb in the center of the stage. John was there, and I came through the curtains kind of looking, and he said, "Oh, come on over." And so I handed him my resume, and I was going to do the audition. I got into it like, I don't know, 90 seconds maybe, because he was looking at my resume, and I saw that he was looking at the resume, and I was told, "Look, when you go in for auditions, people are strange. Sometimes they're eating food. Sometimes you don't think they're listening, but you can see them. Don't pay any attention." And so he said, "Stop." And that's when I just went, I'm done. This is over. Come here. I went over to him. He said, "Tell me about Antarctica." It was the only thing. I mean, I had a couple of shows I was in, and then at the bottom it said skills. I said, "Antarctic Pararescue Team." And we talked, And he said, "You're in," you know.
Wow.
I got in.
I want to
And
ask
so,
you about a film. Before I
yeah,
do, go ahead. You were about
just
to say something.
yes. So it was being led to follow and engage fully, Mark, to answer your question. And that's what it's been with everything. And so it went from acting to, wait a minute, I can't afford to do this. I love it. I have children, house, and I'm not making, it's not computing. And so then it went into production, and that just took off. Another pivotal moment of just catapulting. And it was because people, it's just one thing led to another, but there was taps on the shoulders like, can we talk with you? I've not submitted resume other than for acting. It's just been meeting, and it's just gone from one to the other that you see in my resume. So it's
Got it.
not been a sense of risk. It's been a sense of, okay, we need more cash. We need to utilize who we are. And that was with my wife, phenomenal woman. We were together for 29 years until it was over, and it was over. And she's doing very well in Montana, and she's happy in her surrounding and her people. All of our children are great. Everybody's settled in. So
Okay, so
risk.
I'm just gonna paraphrase. It didn't feel like risk. It felt like following the call each time and just paying attention to where you were, what was happening right around you, which you received from your mother. And as your production career evolved, in the framework of having gone to and followed T.E. Lawrence's path, did that qualify you or become a thing that the folks in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot needed from you? Because those two things have somewhat of an overlap in terms of territory. Like, that film was about the Mideast. It was about the way that were over there, and a very human story, really. The context might have been, service people and the conflict, but the element of that in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot was more about the human interest of the people. And my real question is, did your journey, your adventure following the Camelback Trail of T.E. Lawrence prepare you for Whiskey Tango Foxtrot? And what is there any synergy there, or am I just making that up?
No, absolutely. It's just that, along with having spent time in England and being around the British. I was playing a British news. I don't know what it was. British something, doesn't matter. A reporter out in the field, and being in the field, it was filmed literally, I think maybe 6 miles from where I'm living right now. It was in the old prison, Santa Fe prison is where it was filmed. And stepping onto the set, it was just like being in the Middle East. And so that fed me in terms of the sand that was blowing, the way they had the setup, the people, and it was just familiar. So it allowed me, I mean, I was totally at ease and fine. It wasn't stepping into a situation that seemed strange at all. And so, and the understanding that the way people think of the Middle East and the people, I was when I did the audition, it brought the house down, because they just thought it was so killingly funny, because I'm talking about the war, and I said, and all these people in there, they're doing this and that, and what is it like? Well, it's no different than the Kabul Zoo. And so it just became a very funny thing. But having that, and that got me the part, because it was a knowledge. They said, he sounds he sounds just like David Attenborough. And there were two directors, and he said, "No, Richard. He sounds more like Richard." Okay, guys.
Which is hilarious.
Which is
right?
hilarious.
Those two guys, yeah,
Yeah. And so the two directors were talking about it, and they were talking about, David and Richard Attenborough. But what it was is that it seemed authentic and they loved it. And that came from the experiences of going to the Middle East. Just the background to this right here. It looks like
It's the shot you sent us.
what? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you could
It's
just
Wadi Rum.
you're on the camel just on your lower right corner there.
That's it. I see. Just I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's where the acting was fantastic. One feeds the other. It's just living. It's getting out of that school of 31 graduates. When I was 15, I went to an encampment for citizenship. I was selected. It was paid for by the Rotary Club in Bethel, Vermont. Bless them. Because that opened my eyes. I was seeing people from Israel, from Sweden. It was really sweet. It was great. And people from New York City, and getting on a bus, being driven from, the middle of Vermont to New York City, first time, coming out of the Lincoln Tunnel and just going,
Right.
the buildings, it was just so magnificent. And then getting on a bus and spending 2 days traveling with people that I was going to spend the summer with in Great Falls, Montana. It was fabulous. All these friends from all over, from Harlem, Spanish Harlem, from, Staten Island, and
That's
just all the
hilarious.
cultures.
What year was that?
That was, I was 15, so that was 1970.
All right.
So my family's from Great Falls. My grandfather started an advertising agency there. My uncle lives there currently. I spent a few summers there. So
Amazing.
I'm very familiar. It's a mystical area.
Oh, it was so magical to me, to all of us, because we would take the weekend and they would divide us up sometimes and put us on, we'd go through all the coulees out in the area and go to a farm, a ranch, or we would go to Glacier National Park and spend the weekend there. And that was just, Vermont boy. My mountains were 3,400 feet. I do that in elevation gain on the mountains that I climb. It's like, it's just so different. Doesn't mean that the mountains aren't strenuous, and the ice and the snow and the conditions for skiing. Anyway, so I was talking about being 15, coming back and saying, I'm leaving, to my mom. I've had it. And I have friends now, and I'm leaving. She said, what do you mean? And where do you think you're going? And I said, well, Charles lives in Harlem. She said, you're going to go live in Harlem. If you can't deal with where you are, the story, you have no business putting a foot forward. You must stop commenting on it, son. You just see the good around you, look at it, learn it. So that's part of the actor. It's see them. I played a guy in a show that took one of the characters from my town. And I was just as wacky and wild and just, we're going to do this and do that. And I was playing my age and stuff. And people just fell out of their seats because it was just so funny, but vulnerable and endearing. And I wouldn't have that if I hadn't had my mother saying, look what's going on. See how people live. Look what you're trying to do. I always worked. I learned how to kick a bale of hay up, at least 13. I was haying, doing things. So the film work, the commercial work, a lot of it had to do with just full confidence in what I was enough, and fully engage Mark and Greg. And that's how I got my roles. I did a lot of commercials, and that saved that. I did a Molson's beer commercial as a Dutch skier with a Dutch accent. and you go, well, how did you do a Dutch accent? Well, I just graduated from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I learned the IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet. And so when I was sitting there with the icon of dialecticians in the film world, I said, excuse me, Dr. Johnson, I know the IPA. We could just, he said, you do? I said, yes, sir, I do. And so, we had an hour to learn my lines with him, and we did it in 5 minutes. I mean, it was just as simple as that. And we were ready to go. And I did 3 commercials of Molson's. I did Stroh's beer. Did you ever hear of
Oh,
Stroh's
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
beer? Yeah, I
That was
played
the
a
first
cowboy
thing
in that.
I worked on.
Well, this comes back to the Boy Scout motto, which is be prepared,
Correct.
right? And you don't always know what you're preparing for.
And that's where you have to trust. And the trust is not in, okay, I'm going to trust, and someday something's going to happen. And that mantra is, vibrating your head. That's not it. It's just trusting where you are right now is where you need to be.
It's brilliant.
And having a
capacity.
human heart.
Oh, that comes from just opening up the eyes and seeing beyond, where you are and experiencing. That's what travel brings. Someone's opinion. I've listened to opinions because what I didn't say, my father passed on when we were young. And so I was 11. We had been in Vermont for a year and a half from South Carolina. I had 2 older sisters, twins, that were 13. I have a brother on my first birthday.
Wow.
He was 10. He and I were born in Stuttgart, Germany. He was born of American parents abroad in Germany. And then another set of twins 2 years after that. And so it was children and in a foreign land without a dad. So and my mother loved him. And there was no bringing him back. And there was no one that's going to replace him. And so we all, in many ways, fended for ourselves. But for myself, I was asked to do things that I said, well, why can't Kim mow the lawn, Mom? Come on. Kim. She said, he's just not the one to mow the lawn. You know how to do it. Do it. Take care of it. And I said, Kim, you get to mow it. Sure. He went out. It was in Vermont. It was a field that was really high. It was not hay, but close. And he just mowed a big peace sign in the. I was going, dude. I didn't say dude. I just said, you're an idiot. You really are. You're really an idiot. Well, he's not. Of course
Right.
not. And he's not. We're still.
Like your mom tried to tell you were the one to mow the lawn.
And that was another thing to accept. And when people ask things, and it was like, we need the door on the side of the barn. And I was younger than 15 and when all that. And she said, I think you can do it because we need that. And I said, yes, ma'am. And she turned around, she picked up a U-Bahn coffee tin full of nails. She said, now take these nails, bend them straight, and once you've used all these, we'll see about getting more. I said, okay, Mom. And it was like those nails. There were horseshoe nails. There were spikes. There were, I know now there were 6 penny, 8 penny, and 16 penny nails. And they were bent. They were rusted. It was like, and figuring it out. And in the end, the door was nearly 4x8. I mean, it started with a 4x8 piece of plywood, and I just went around and looked at barn doors and saw that they had stabilizers, crisscrosses, and that they had, lap hinges and strap hinges, and figured it out. And had a bunch of us to, lift it up because we had to. It was just like when that came to that, I had to get help.
There's a sort of subtext here about resilience and ingenuity, but also politeness. I wonder if you would speak a little bit about why social graces were so important and still are, but are somewhat lacking in our current cultural context.
There's something about social grace that slows everything down in a sense that you can see who you're talking to. And by seeing them in a gracious manner, you're hearing them better. You're not defending yourself. You're listening. And someone said, well, watch out. He's pretty charming. My mother said, you better watch how you use that. You're getting off course. And I couldn't figure out what she meant. She said, you don't flash your sense of goodness. That's genuine. And then it was just like, that was very early on. I got it, but right up to, I was raised that way, and it fit. My father, we were raised to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. And that was because of the military. And it's just the way it was. And in the South that we had come from back in the 60s, that's the way people talk. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, Southern accent. And taking that to Vermont, the only thing they got me after they heard me talk when I was introduced in 4th grade, as soon as I got outside that door in the playground, someone shoved me into the dirt. It was like, hey, ma'am, oh, really? And I was like, oh, boy, this is crazy. But graciousness. When we trained for the Middle East trek, the book, A Line in the Sand, by Miles Spencer and myself, is based on a 2006 trek through the Middle East. And in order to, the reason for doing that was twofold. One, it started with, we want to see for ourselves. It was 2005. Miles and I hadn't seen each other for 4 years. We'd had a little bit of communication. That's when his mother passed on. And we saw each other. I was running a foundation in DC, and the chairman of the board of the foundation, talk about a tap. The chairman of the board was Colin Powell's wife, Alma Powell, and she was the chairman, but the president of the board was the former Secretary of Education and drug czar, Bill Bennett's wife, ran that. We had done a few events for them. We went from production company, and I told you my wife and I realized I couldn't make money acting. We went into production, and we did shows at Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, orchestra, we just around the country, and that escalated to different things. Going back to the graciousness, we realized after our wives said, you've got to write a will. You better update your will. You're going to the Middle East. Yeah. Okay, well, we got to get things straight. Well, we might want to look at our insurance. One thing led to another. Well, we realized that we needed kidnap and ransom insurance. And we needed training in order to get the insurance. And then it turned out that a partner with the insurance company, Ackerman International is what it was called back then. And one of the partners was a man that was the private secretary to the Queen of England in the care of Prince Harry and Prince William, their security. He is a former SAS, Irish Guard, and he trained Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman just before us. And he took us on, and with saying that, I worked with Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor. I didn't know who Charlie Borman was, and it wasn't out yet. There around the Long Way Around was the first of their motorcycle ventures. But Jamie filled us in on everything about behavior, what to wear, what to look for, situational awareness. We went through all of it, kidnap and ransom. To have instruction on what to do when you're kidnapped. It's like, okay. And how to truly address people in the Middle East. How much of America do you put on your face? Meet them where they are.
This trip was cut short, as I understand, because things escalated to a degree where you and Miles Like you were in danger, correct? Am I correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
I'll finish off. Jamie said there's one word that covers it all that I have found in all my travels around the globe in my role. It's graciousness. It's simple. People say love. No, it's being gracious. And that's something that I naturally grew up with. I got it, understood. And then you read T.E. Lawrence's 27 articles of how to work with the Arabs. And you start looking into that and you see, whoa, this is brilliant. Well, the military was using military officers with shock and awe in the beginning of all the, after 9/11, everybody was required to read the 27 articles because it was how to deal, with the people on the ground. And graciousness was essential for certain. So we didn't run into, Greg, we were surprised on how well we were greeted. We went through 39 checkpoints. Some of them were intense, especially the crossing into Israel, because that was more where the conflict existed at the time. People aren't fighting in Saudi, people aren't fighting in Jordan or Syria. I mean, Syria, we got in just in time because they stopped giving out any visas. We were very fortunate in 2006 to get into Syria, and it was magnificent. It's so ancient. These lands are so ancient. When a driver pulls over and he says, "Oh, Abraham and Musa," whoa, what are you talking about? Abraham. I said, "Are you saying Abraham?" I Abraham. And Moses, Musa, yeah. He lived there. Wait a minute. We're looking across the desert, up, mounds and stuff, and there's just like a few little structures out, off the Red Sea. And he said, Abraham.
Wow.
Abraham, he's 10 years.
Ah.
And then he goes, with daughter.
Wow.
And you go in the Bible and go, whoa, there it is.
That's wild.
And
So the book is A Line in the Sand.
Yeah.
And it's clearly one of the central adventures of an incredible life. And we will definitely link to that so people can get that for their Kindles or get a softback or get a hardback. One of the things that's present right now in our reality is the richness of the tapestry of your experience and wisdom is greater than the time we have to extrapolate and explore. And so as we are bringing this closer to a close, we want to get in a couple of our last questions. And clearly Greg is chomping at the bit. He really wants to ask another question. But before he does, I just wanted to say, is there anything else that you wanted to let us know about current events other than Reflecta.ai and A Line in the Sand? What are the most important things to you this week?
Well, Reflecta is extremely important because of my role with veterans in the military. Very big. I just got back from Havana, Cuba. Our next book is following Magnus and Finn, is called Havana Familia. And it is, we will have a time travel device as well. And so the current day is 2016, when everything looks so beautiful for Cuba, for the culture and for the artists and entrepreneurs. Miles was there, very much engaged with people there. And then the time travel device takes us back to 1958, literally the day before and the day of the revolution. And it happened on New Year's Eve. And so we are doing a marathon, and we stop in 2016 together. Miles did do the marathon. I saw the route when I was there, and we pull off and use our time travel device as Magnus and Finn to go to different periods when strategic things happened. So that's
History.
uh, the one of the other big ones that's engaged with time writing.
Got it. This is a chance, Greg. What's the question?
Okay, when you were mentioning when you were 15 and you mentioned Sweden, it seemed there was a little spark there of someone.
Oh, her name was Heidi. Heidi Häuser.
Opened up a
And
whole new world for you, did it?
the Blue Lagoon. It was truly just, when you're that young and you have that first sense of love or just complete captivated by someone, and they're captivated by you, and you're young and you are, and you don't even know what you're doing, but you're just to kiss was just the most amazing thing, and to lie next to each other and look up at the sky and and hold hands and all that. It was just absolutely first love.
Wow.
Mhm.
All right.
Amazing, Greg, that you picked up on that, because I saw her and she wore glasses and she took them off. And I remember seeing some movie where they said, take off your glasses. And she took off whoever was in the movie and shook her hair, and she was a totally different person,
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
Heidi was not overt like that. She was reserved and shy, but you read it in the eyes always.
That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So we have a traditional final question. Is there anything, Mark, that you want to ask before?
I think it's time.
Okay. So Wells, Mark and I, this is a tradition for us. There's an element of seriousness to it, and we'll find out. So the question is, Mark?
The Foo Fighters or Eminem?
Neither. Come on.
How come?
Sorry.
Come?
How come I have had on stage? I mean, I didn't get Bono, but I've produced things that have just been, what I find are real, not the commercialized stuff. I think the Foo Fighters, both are just absolutely electric. There's no question. But and with my background and as a producer director, I like the Neville Brothers, but I also like the Wailers, but I like Dickie Betts, but I like, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Beauty and art. And when you feel that heart-centered radiance, it doesn't matter what form it takes. It's got that thing.
I heard it at a club here. It's called Unit B in Santa Fe. And Michael Morales was playing, and he had 3 local guys. I know the drummer. The drummer's the one that sets all this stuff up. It's a big deal. It's nice. And they've known each other forever. But when you see any form of music and everybody is totally in flow with each other, and it's live and you're right next to it, that's the experience. It's not in the living room. It's like, you see the artistry.
Yeah.
The soul. You see the soul. You see here the heart. And then you see if someone responds to something that was just so beautiful on the keyboards. And that's the way Michael was. He's a great, big, huge guy, but his graciousness.
Well, thank you for all the graciousness that you have shown us today. We would love to have you back for another visit soon.
Sure.
And this episode is probably going to air right around the time that you're launching. So
wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you so much for coming today and spending time with us. And we hope to have you back to hear more stories of heart-centered, gracious adventure.
Oh, Mark, Greg, it has been such a deep pleasure. And please, let's get back together. Okay? It's just the connection. We've got it. refuse it.
All right, let's do it. Thanks again.
Recording stopped.